All right, so why aren't more people interested in the reptilians? This is a fascinating subject. I mean, when I first saw this stuff from the analysis that Frequency Fence did on the movie The Matrix and other busts that he did, like that porno, which was absolutely amazing. I mean, this is radical, awesome, totally fascinating paranormal footage of scary, not just non-humans, scary non-humans. I mean, with fangs and claws and everything. It's like that darkness in the back of your mind. You know what is that darkness you sense? It's these reptilians, the serpents from the Garden of Eden, probably the same one that came up to Eve, and it was a big lizard man, 6, 7 foot tall. She didn't freak out. He spoke the same language as her, and he has a conversation with her and convinces her that, hey, eating from that tree that God told you not to eat from is not such a bad idea. And then later, after they sinned, then God tells the serpent and Eve that the serpent will have his head bruised by the seed of Eve, and Eve will have her heel bruised by the serpent. So it's like they hurt each other. The seed of Eve and the seed of the serpent, those two races have a conflict very clearly in the scripture, which I would think Christians would be interested in, especially since now almost everybody has heard of the crazy conspiracy theory of reptilians. Now, while I'm on this subject, before I forget, I want to tell you that recently I was contacted by someone who wanted me to work on a documentary. And the documentary was apparently about reptilians or non-humans or people that believe in them. In fact, he was interested in my religious beliefs concerning the reptilians. Now, as it turned out, so in the very first conversation, he sends me a link to a Los Angeles Times article talking about a guy that went nuts and killed people, and it turns out that he was a Christian who believed in the reptilian conspiracy. Big surprise that was coming, right? And it was also reported on CNN, as I later found out. And I don't want to give the details about it because, and I didn't want to talk about it because it basically, it's going to be a slander hit piece. And now, I'm not saying that I know of any of the facts that might be right or wrong about it. What I am saying is that likely it was a slander hit piece because I thought it was odd. I almost blew the guy off when he sent me that link to the LA Times. I thought, well, who knows, maybe, he was just mentioning that as, kind of a caveat doubt to the whole thing, some guy who's a Christian preaching the Bible, and then he believes in the serpent reptilian thing, and then he goes nuts and kills people. That's kind of like something he was just kind of introducing. But then, so I didn't think he was even going to use that in the documentary, but it turns out he was, because the next email he sends me is, yeah, we're going to use that. And he gives, and he wants, and at that point I said, yeah, I'll participate because I'm interested in getting exposure and everything. So I was going to do it because as you may have known, I did a documentary shoot with Vice, which I knew. I knew what kind of organization they were, and I knew it was likely a slander hit piece, which it was meant to be. Because they did the same, that's what they did because it was about the targeting issue, so gang stalking, and the people that suffer from gang stalking in the UK, Vice did a report for them, and it made them look so bad that those targeted individuals in the United Kingdom sued Vice because it made them look so bad. But I maintain that the Lord came and made sure, because I was involved, that the Los Angeles TIs didn't look like lunatics, which they wanted to make us look like lunatics, but somehow the Lord turned it to our favor. And I'm 4 million views later, I'm quite happy about it, but I later found out that the director was fired. Now, here's the thing. So in the second email that this guy just recently now, who wanted me to work on this other documentary supposedly about reptilians and Christianity, he then tells me that he's going to use that, the subject of that Christian preacher guy who believed in the reptilians and went psycho and killed people. He's going to use that in the documentary, and doesn't give any ounce of indication of like, we're not going to compare you to him, because there's similarities, right? Christian preacher who believes in the reptilian conspiracy theory. Okay, kind of specific, right? So he doesn't give any explanation about that, and at that point, without, because that would be common sense, right? I mean, I'm not going to show up in a documentary with some psycho, and so he's going to compare me with that, right? And also at the same time smear all Christians who believe in the reptilian conspiracy theory, because see, they might go psycho and kill some people too. I mean, I had a reasonable conversation with him before that, saying, yeah, boy, I'm shocked to hear that. Here he is preaching the Bible, which has the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, and then he goes out and kills people. It doesn't make sense. It just almost doesn't make sense. And I told him a story about what happened to us in Thailand with people getting mind controlled. Some police that we had watched somebody that we were afraid that Satan was going to attack. Those police were mind controlled to run that person over with a car to the point where her arm was almost going to have to be amputated. Luckily, our angel could heal any injury or disease, and did at great cost, but she was restored to normal like that. Now, when the guy sent me this second message without even any sort of assurance that I wasn't going to be compared to this guy, first of all, I'm sorry, you just can't be that bright, okay? Because if you want somebody to, and he was sending me the contract, the contract for me to sign, which first of all, I told him, even apart from any of those other issues, I wasn't going to sign, because it made me out to be an employee who yet gets no pay. So I'm under, and I was also not supposed to talk about. He didn't. The main issue that he told me, that he didn't want me to talk about that guy that was in that article. And he was a guy from, and was local to me here in where I live in Los Angeles. So at that point, I basically told him, "I'm sir, I'm not. I've retracted my offer. I'm not going to sign the contract. I'm not going to work with you." And I think that's very stupid. And so so I blew him off. But just letting you know, those of you who are interested in watching, that they're working hard to slander us. Now, I'm not too worried. I'm slightly worried, because if they do come out with that, it could mean like a bunch of people start, oh my God, you're a psycho. Who knows what might come against me if he publishes his slander hit piece. But like I just got through saying about Vice, I knew the Lord took care of me, because I had made a friend of the Lord by adhering to his word and fearing him, and talking about him and sharing him with others. And so I'm not too worried, but just a little heads up, they may be publishing some sort of slander hit piece. And because there was nothing else at that point. If you want to don't burn bridges, but I mean, frankly, that was so stupid, and so comparing me to some psycho without even just saying, we're not going to hold you side by side, say that because you have the same thing, nothing like that. I mean, like totally oblivious to the obvious fear that would raise, and then signing a contract at the same time without any sort of discussion about that. So I basically told him he was stupid and leave me alone. But okay, so just letting you know that's an issue, and so in case you didn't know, if you're watching this and you're looking at this whole reptilian thing and you're thinking, oh man, these lunatics who believe in reptilians, well, friend, they have designed society to make us look like lunatics, and stories like that, like I told you, in efforts to make anybody who questions this issue look like a horrible, icky person that you don't want to go near, because all the news does, in case you didn't know, all the news is not news. They're not giving you news. It's lying propaganda from a central world government that is ultimately run by Satan, the devil, and his avatar Lucifer, so he just gets out of his reptilian body and gets in his human body, which he made, which is very beautiful with long, white, curly hair, as 3 separate people reported to me. And he is who is really running the world, as God gave him to, but that doesn't mean that he isn't extremely evil, and he is extremely evil. And his allies, his fellow angels, that were also turned into various sorts of beasts, not just reptilians. Reptilians apparently are the main ones that are fighting against us and doing all this evil stuff. So I just want to tell anybody who's looking at this and saying, come on, I just want to see what this lunatic has to say. These reptilians can't be true. If you just do a little bit of investigation, you can actually see this is true. It's just that most people's minds are so blocked. And I know I have been blocked myself. I was blocked from 9/11 for 10. The conspiracy that 9/11, that's a whole separate thing. In case you didn't know, it wasn't Arabs that did that. It was Americans and apparently Israelis that did that. But as all the evidence shows from multiple in-depth evidence-based documentaries, that's a whole separate thing. But just to let you know that I have experienced my mind being blocked. When people said that, I said, that's impossible, that can't be true, it's on the news, blah, blah, blah. There's no way they can lie about it. Somehow somebody would find out, And to this day, I would say probably even at least 40-50% of Americans, if not a lot more, believe the complete lying narrative BS about what really happened on 9/11. We were not attacked by Arabs. We were attacked by elements, dark elements, what they call the Cabal or the Illuminati, or what I say are the reptilians and the serpents, whatever it is. But it was America basically attacking America. America allowed that to happen. It happened for various reasons. Who knows exactly what happened, but you can check that out for yourself. But in my opinion, and what's really happening here, the core of everything, if you're a conspiracy theorist like I am, looking into all this dark stuff and willing to take an open look and look at the evidence and sort through everything that might be paranoia and not true and things that have no evidence, to sorting it out and finding what apparently is true, and then you look at everything that's coming against us from these poison chemtrails. So when you look in the sky and you see those streaks across the sky, it's not just condensation coming out the back. And they're spraying us with something. I'll show the pictures here. You can see they're actually doing this. They call it geoengineering. Other people have said they're spraying aluminum, God knows what else, nanoparticles. Who knows? It doesn't make sense because if it was some people that were in charge, it wouldn't make sense. Wait, my kids might be breathing this stuff. Women who are the wives of these men, even if they're in top military positions, it doesn't make sense. That's why I concluded early on, and I knew right away. I mean, it just popped into place. This is being done by someone who hates us. That's not us. It's these reptilians, or as the Bible calls them, serpents. And all the evidence points to, and even the scripture tells us, the most horrific thing that you can possibly imagine about this. Sounds like a science fiction story. It sounds like I'm a lunatic coming up here on YouTube, showing my face and actually saying this with a straight face like I actually believe it. Yes, I do. The evidence points to it. Why are they keeping everything a secret? Why are they hiding the UFOs? Because somebody doesn't want us to know about these non-humans. What is going on here with all this? It's because we have non-humans living among us, also using shape-shifting, the ones that live among us and pretend to be us. They may be human-reptilian hybrids. They may be reptilians with advanced holographic technology, the ability to shapeshift from human to reptilian form, whatever. We got these non-humans. They are clearly working against us, and by all accounts, if you investigate this, look at the witnesses, I'll play a few here.
Please know that what I am going to tell you now is very difficult for me. I was tortured beyond imagining, so I would never speak of what I saw. The Queen and Prince Philip are not human. No. I have been mocked, I've been laughed at, I've been attacked, I've been through every single thing you can imagine by trying to get this truth out there. I couldn't give a flying fuck what you react like. I am going to tell you the truth. Yes! They are reptilians. They shapeshift from human form into lizard form. I saw this with my own eyes many, many times. And trust me when I tell you, they are the most evil creatures that you could possibly imagine on this planet.
How many kids went through the program? Countless numbers. I would just look at the amount that died. And it probably way more died. There was way more than that died. And the ones that died that were too far irradiated because of the chair, when we were kids, we would have to carry them out. Normally it would take 2 kids to carry another child's dead body out, and we would put them in yellow barrels. They were yellow barrels, they weren't black, and we would just drop them in the barrels, fill them up. If we didn't obey and get in the chair, Preston specifically would bring us into the feeding room, what I knew as a feeding room. Originally it wasn't as refurbished as it was later, but it was just a room with 4 corners. You would walk in there and there would be just piles of dead bodies. You would have a pile of dead bodies that were clothed, and then you would have a pile where they were unclothed and naked, and then you would have a pile where they would tear their heads off and put the headless bodies into a corner, and then you would have another pile where they were feeding, and then you had a pile of all the clothes that were discarded. And then normally there was a table that was set up on the very far right-hand side that you would be brought in and electrocuted if you weren't obedient enough in the training process in front of the Draco while you got to watch them eat your own people. You were food if you didn't obey, but there were some there. There was some that were nice, I guess. Not really nice, just none of them wore clothing. Some of them had battle armor on when they attacked the base in 2014. And there was an alpha along with them. There was one Draco that was, I think, considered a helper class Draco. That's been talked about. A helper class Draco that's been talked about. And he performed a ritual with other humans where you, as a child, would have to go in the process of them breaking you in another location at Montauk, where they would do sacrifices, and it would be at the top level, and they would be wearing robes, and then you would have to kill somebody. And that was part of the disassociation.
These creatures make humans look like sweet little angels in heaven. Okay, that's how evil they are. Okay? Much different set of morals than humans can even imagine that another sentient being can have, and there's a reason why they don't want us to even imagine that there are other sentient beings. That is why Satan and his serpents and the other non-humans that work for Satan want to keep a tight clamp down on all information of the world, whether it's bookstores, television, the internet. As we can see from this censorship now, it doesn't make any sense. It's completely un-American. People have lost their minds. But it's because they don't want this information getting out. They don't want more people finding out. Now, I want to get to that issue about also, because now, channels like that, I've been talking about this clearly, and not, some say guy, the earth is flat or some other BS. I'm showing evidence. You can see it. This picture of Harrison Ford with these 4 little horns popping out of his head. You can't, and there was no horny toad people in the 1982 Blade Runner script, okay? And the claws on Keanu Reeves in the movie The Matrix, okay? You can see it. There is no video error explanation. So why aren't more people interested in this? It's probably the same reason as why more people are not interested in finding out what I'm sure that even his staunch enemies, Trump was saying, look at these fake news people, all these news people are lying. They don't look into it. The average person goes back to watching their football game. They don't want to look into the fact that our news isn't news. They're lying right to your face. It's propaganda. They all go by a script. They can't deviate from the script. If somebody finds out something, a reporter, they can't just report it. They have to run it through somebody who's really in charge of everything. Okay, even worldwide, all major governments, all news organizations, police and military, government, they are able and they do control it all. Okay? Now, the question comes up then, if so many people are asleep, why? How come more people don't at least a lot more? I mean, very few people. I mean, is it really that people are, because I think a lot of Americans are independent minded. If somebody thinks they're crazy for believing something, they're going to say, I don't care about you. I'm going to, investigate this and talk about it or whatever. Why don't more, and why isn't the reptilian subject more popular? Why am I basically alone with, a few people that dare speak out? Several reasons, but I don't want to, the one reason that immediately comes to mind is because they shut people up as they try to shut me up. I mean, you could see from my channel. I mean, try to kill me, advanced psychological warfare day and night, air stalking, directed energy weapons, police zooming around me, all kinds of stuff to try to get me to stop. So a lot of people, when they might start to notice this. By the way, they have society-wide blanketed mind control. So where you live in your neighborhood, there's something that covers it. They can see all the thoughts of everyone. Your thoughts are not private. You may think that that's science fiction. You may think, oh no, I'm sorry, you're a lunatic. Okay, that's exactly how they want you to react. The fact is, they have patents on this mind-reading technology and AI hooked up to it, and they can see the images in your mind. They can see the image of you wanting to have sexual relations with that person. They can see the images of you wanting to beat that guy up. They can see it, okay? Your thoughts are not private. Now, I have a lot of respect for Glenn Greenwald and his news reporting, and he was just doing a report recently about how the bill to shut off the warrantless spying was up for renewal, and then Nancy Pelosi blocked it and everything. And his reporting is good and everything, and I have no criticism for that. But when you know that the real government is laughing in their faces about all that, because they don't need all that, they have society blanketing mind-reading technology. That's why there really is no running away from the long arm of the law. They can see if you're thinking about committing a crime, don't do it. Okay? Because they'll be on to you before you even get your initial plans to do it. In fact, there was an episode of the Ghost in the Shell television series in which they highlighted this very issue. I've spoken about that before. They actually issued about, like, there was some guy that they were following. They were worried that he was going to start a terrorist attack, and they were like following him and taking notes and everything. And this guy was showing up and doing all this stuff and everything. And then it turned out at the end, you find out that all it was that it was in his mind. And they don't say in the episode per se, they don't show it or say that they have the mind reading control technology, but they do. Okay, that was the inference to that. Okay, you could piece two and two together. Okay, now another question comes up: does God want us to not talk about this issue? Because remember, again, ultimately everything is from God. Even Satan being in control of the world, in 1 second, God could dispose of Satan and all of his demons just like that, like instantly atomized, okay? And they would be gone. So here's the thing. It's done for a reason. It's because it's the same thing about the mystery of all these other absolutely crazy stuff going on in America without there being a real uprising, not January 6th. That was a protest. That wasn't an uprising. I'll show you an uprising. Okay, I'm talking about a real uprising. Why doesn't that happen? Why, again, but staying focused on this issue, knowing who's really behind it, these reptilians. I'm talking lizard men that don't especially like humans, are extremely evil, and they eat people, okay? Remember, Adam was made of the dust. God says to the serpent, you are cursed above all the other beasts of the field, non-humans that you see from the Egyptian renderings. God says to the serpent, dust shall you eat all the days of your life. On your belly you shall go means live covertly. But now you would think, well, then God, gave the serpents the curse to eat people, which is horrific in itself. Understand your God, okay? So you need to read carefully what he says. And he has said, if you read it carefully, that yes, this horrible thing does exist. The price for sin is high. The price for turning your back on your Creator is high. You got to, friends. I'm not lying to you. I'm not up here giving you some BS story, friends. You have got to turn to God. That is what all this is about. You are a creation of God. You have a name given by God. That's why God says, your name will be written in the book of life. You have a name that God gave you. It's not necessarily the name your parents gave you. It means you were created by somebody, a very intelligent, very powerful force is how you came into being. You weren't just random. Your parents met and this happened. Somebody was, inherited and came down through the ages and just happened to meet this. But no, it's very specific. The events of the world are under control. Tight control, beyond our ability to believe or understand, and yet simultaneously we are responsible for our choices. Friends, I'm not lying to you. This thing about the horror of these reptilians living among us, if you really look at it, is all about the fact that many people choose to ignore God. They say, hey, the God thing isn't for me. You're Jesus and your authorized King James Bible. I love you, Rich, or all that stuff. I'm just not into that. Hey, I completely understand. I used to be non-religious myself, and I'm still non-religious, actually. I think most religion, even my own Christianity, they don't get it. Churches, you don't see me in there. And most Christians, I'm afraid they just don't quite get it. When I talk to them, there's not long enough as I talk to them, I see, oh crap, pretty serious error here. But everybody has a different opinion. So we don't know until we go to heaven. You got to keep an open mind. You got to be, friendly and cool if people, that you need to work with. But what I'm saying here, friends, the most important thing is that you don't turn your back on God. God, by the way, in case you maybe, don't listen to this kind of thing too much, God is God's word. It is perfect. It is pure as his word says. Psalm 12:6, the words of the Lord. Whose words? Man's? Constantine? Some other dude that edited it? No, it says the words of the Lord are pure words. So they're all the Lord's and they're pure. 100%. Okay, pure means 100% pure. Okay? So, this means that in order to know God, you got to know his word. And his word and all evidence points to, and I will tell you straight up, it is the authorized King James Bible. Do not neglect it. Yes, it's hard reading, but once you really get into it and you start to break the codes and everything, and God will start to talk with you. As you draw close to God, God will draw close to you. That's what all this is about. The reason why everybody is, for instance, I was just making a video about this, well, we got to vote for Trump because look at the other guy. I mean, we'll make America great again, and not looking at everything else, which you're going to say as you stand before Jesus Christ in the judgment. When you die, 1 out of 1 person dies, you're going to stand before the judgment, okay, if you're a Christian, and you're going to have to tell Jesus, oh yeah, I voted for Trump. Well, there's a little problem there, okay? In fact, there's a big problem. There's a problem that's so big and so right in your face that it's, there will be no excuse, okay? So, and all that lack of common sense, okay, is because of the iniquity of the world, okay? The iniquity, by the way, is just another word for evil works that are like your job, whatever it might be, that are hidden as the needed things that we all need to have a civilized society. We need the farmers, we need the firemen, we need the teachers, blah, blah, okay? But the way it's set up, is my understanding, beyond explanation. I do not have an explanation for you. Remember, the scripture also tells us no man has understanding, but we can get these little bits and pieces of it. But it's in fact, all these works, all these jobs that are set up and everything, have a little problem of, even though at the same time, because the argument is, well, how are people going to do it? The bottom line to it is, if enough people had just said, you know what, I can't understand this, but I'm not going to do it. It's not righteous. I can feel it. It's wrong. It's something wicked. I don't like it. If enough people did that, a system could be provided where you could do honest, good labor that would not have any guilty issues before the judgment of God. Okay, that would happen. But it doesn't. And the reason why a lot of people don't realize this, they don't realize the threat of the reptilians, they're not interested, they don't want to hear about it, they can't believe it, is because of this iniquity issue. The whole thing, what you get, the conclusion out of God's word, is that you got to stop doing the iniquity. Doesn't matter whether you understand it, doesn't matter whether your parents approve, it doesn't matter whether you can feed your family. No other issues surpass the issue of what's going to happen to you when you die. Life is short, eternity is forever. Keep in mind, the soul is eternal, okay? So you got to get your priorities straight. If you're watching this, it's not too late. Say this prayer now. Father in heaven, please save my soul by the work of your Son Jesus on the cross, and show me your pure words in the authorized King James Bible.
This is a war on religion. This is a war on the children. They kill the cure with the sickness.